What's good, Liberators? Fingers here, Dx2, Demon Review, and today we are talking about the sin from within, the Baller of Wind. Baal, a god of storm and rain worshipped in the Canaan region. His name means Lord in ancient Semitic. Like his title, he is the chief deity in Ugaritic mythology. After being incorporated into Egyptian mythology, he is equated with the storm god Seth and is depicted in a similar fashion, and he has an amazing design. Thankfully, they recolored it from its original design. If you don't believe me, look up his original SMT coloring. It is the stuff of nightmares. Now, back to the stats. He is a magic caster extraordinaire. He can bring the pain in PvP if properly kitted out. So crank up that magic stat, 204 off rip. Pump that up to 224, 244 if you run wild with it. And if you are running him in PvP, I would strongly suggest dumping that other 20 into agility, bringing him to a respectable 176, which can function on your speedster PvP team. And he is a turn one kind of guy, so you definitely want him on a turn one team. His luck is terrible. His vitality is just as terrible. And there's really nothing else to discuss there. He is weak to ice, so be aware. Nulls electricity, useless. Drains wind, very cool. And resist light, which is as useless as nulls. For the skills, the big one out the gate, the transferable force. Amp plus 25% to force damage, which is fantastic when this comes naturally with a demon's kit, boosting his effectiveness to an insane degree naturally. And for his first unique skill, the Reigns of Canaan. While the demon with this skill is alive, all party members will receive the following effects: plus 10% to force damage and plus 10% to status ailment auto cure rate. Not bad. So if one of those Angra teams gets the jump on you, you might just be able to shake it off and launch a counterattack. Unlikely, but still, you can make something work with that, and plus 10% to force damage across the board. So in PvP, you can consider running him with the Dimensional Koholin and just pile on with that force pierce damage. And for his other unique skill, the Tempest. Force magic damage on all enemies, reduces evasion and accuracy of enemies by 20% when the attack is successful for 3 turns, and this skill has force pierce power of 130, making it a very powerful sweep attack with pierce, making it play very, very well in PvP. He can bust people in PvP, much like his electric counterpart, Anat. He comes, brings the pain, and even adds in a layer of defense for you with the Secunda built into the attack. Never underestimate the defensive value of Secunda. Not only lets your physical attacks be more accurate, but that defensive boost when your enemies are swinging at air cannot be understated. And again, running him with a Dimensional Koholin, this is a nice add-on to him, making his physical force attack, which can miss, lock it in place even further if you level this skill up, which, if you're going to run him in PvP, I strongly recommend you do. You can get 20% to the damage of this bad boy and the crucial MP cost -1, which will bring this down to 7 MP. Now we can take that a bit further with his panels, I believe. Yes, we can, and we will get to that when we get to it. So his second panel plus leveling his Tempest skill up is essential if you're going to run him in PvP to get Tempest at a nice 6 MP for that turn 1 bomb drop. I've got him in the Psychic archetype for Merciless Blow, 20% when attacking the enemy's weak point, so piling on damage, making him a turn 1 Demopocalypse Force all-star. In this regard, you can really pile on the damage, which is what I primarily use him for, is Force Demopocalypse, and he rocks out with that because of just how much you're able to spike his damage rate, as shown with the transferables I've got on here. Back attack plus 10% on attacking the enemy's weak points, so 30% damage boost with Merciless Blow and back attack together. And the classic Force Boost plus 15% to force damage. But if you're running him in PvP, you might want to consider Speedster to help you get that turn 1 bomb drop off. But as I said before, I primarily run him for Force Demopocalypse, so it's all about the damage. Give him that Force Survivor, give him that Force Enhancement, anything to pile on the damage. And what do I got here? Force Boost, 15%, 10% from back attack. So we got 25% there, 45% with Merciless Blow, 65% when you level up Tempest, and 85% with the Force Amp, plus the 10% from Reigns of Canaan, giving him a 95% Force Boost increase when hitting a weak point, of course, which is why he rocks out with his cock out in Force Demopocalypse. As for branding, if you're running him in PvP, Divine Brands, Speed Brands, full stop. What you should be going with, you just want that turn 1 Annihilation if you are running with him. So get on that. If you're running him in PvP, you can give him those spell brands and he can function just fine, especially if you've got his second panel and Tempest leveled up for that reduced MP concern. And yeah, for PvE, go with what you need for whatever fight you are going for. But for PvP, Divine, Speed, go. As for the panels, panel 1, minus 50% to force damage received. Great if you are farming the Force Altar World, which he also excels quite well at, especially if you got this first panel, making the enemy's attacks just schlub right off him. And for the big one, panel 2, reduce the cost of Tempest by 1 MP. Crucial if you plan on running him in PvP. You gotta level up that Tempest, and you need this second panel. Fortunately, you can fuse this guy through multi-fusion. It's going to cost you several million magnetite to create him, but you can make it happen. You can grind out that order gate, get those extra dupes, even though they're common archetype and they only give you 60 spirits. Still, you can make it happen, get that second panel, and put him right to use. And this second panel also gives him an additional magic attack of plus 100, which is a nice touch. And the big Mama Slamma, panel 3, as long as this demon is alive, an additional plus 10% to force damage inflicted by all allies, and plus 10% to status, ailment, auto cure rate, furthering his god tier status in Demopocalypse, giving all your force demons that additional 10%. Very, very nice. And a 20% ailment auto cure rate that could come in real handy for those cheap shot ailments in PvP, especially when you're shaking off an ailment that's really loose to begin with, like Charm. Charm is the easiest ailment to shake off in my estimation, and with this, it's really, really likely you're probably going to shake off those charms should they come your way. Before we wrap things up, you know what? We're gonna go a little crazy here. First, check out his multi-fusion, because you can in fact fuse this guy in here, so we may as well mention him in his common form, which gives Magic Amp 3, which is fine. It's fine. Plus 15 to Magic. If you're running him in PvP, this ain't bad. I mean, wind weaknesses in PvP, it's a dice roll whether you're going to get those, and this just gives him a flat magic attack boost for every demon you hit. So yeah, you could do a lot worse than this. It's a little underwhelming, but hey, it is there. And he costs 5 million mag to fuse here, and the common Seth you're going to need to fuse here is going to cost you another 3 millish. So expect to drop in or around 8 or 9 million mag to create this guy. And the final step in our process here, let's check out these other archetypes and see what else the Lord of Rains is packing. For the Origami archetype, Killing Wind, not terrible if you are running him in the boss wave of Dumb Apocalypse, which is an option with this. Now, the strongest transferable single target force skill, power of 180, so he can hit, plus he'll give that additional 10% force damage boost to all your allies on that boss wave, which can come in real handy. I prefer hyper-speccing him for the initial mob wave, but hey, this is perfectly viable if you want to run him on the boss level. Although, if you're planning on doing that, you might want to consider Merciless Blow in the archetype spot and a transferable Killing Wind if you don't have any spare Merciless Blows lying around skill transfers, so you got a little flex there on what you want to do if that is your plan. For the Protector archetype, Debilitate reduces attack, defense, evasion, and accuracy of all enemies by 20%. The big debuff, can't go wrong with one of these popping off, although in PvP, so many skills automatically do this. I mean, his Tempest skill alone already gives you the evasion and accuracy debuff. So that plus damage, as opposed to that, sacking their attack and defense. If you're running him in PvP, I would say pass on this one, just because he's a turn 1 kind of guy, and if you're exploding on that turn 1, you want to be hitting as hard as possible, and this costs 7 MP, so he can't pop it off turn 1 anyway, or at least on his first turn in turn 1, assuming he gets a second, which means you would have to pass and then come back to him and allow him to pop this off, which means all of your other demons have already gone, meaning the defense debuff was useless. You're better off just firing with Tempest. So hard pass on that one. Psychic archetype, Merciless Blow, which we discussed, and the Elementalist archetype, Null Ice, which nulls ice and covers his weakness. So that is a thing, a useless thing, a situational thing, but it is a thing. So I guess the great debate comes down to how you're going to use them. I would go with the Psychic archetype, but there's a case to be made for that Origami Killing Wind. And that about says all I can say is about that. About the Baal. And if I can find him, there he is. Fantastic design. Holds his chalice like a boss. Like Lil Wayne always said, what's in my cup is in my cup, 'cause it's my cup. Remember, Liberators, don't get captured.